Like it or not, the dichotomy of characters in Naruto is what makes it a fantastic story. The reason that Naruto is able to shine as a Jesus-like character within the confines of his own story is because he's surrounded by so many deuterogonists who are definitely not anime Jesus. Sai is an assassin raised in the guts of the root that's murdered thousands of people on his way to being saved by Naruto. Kakashi is known as a friend killer, an Anbu, and a root member, a living weapon. And the most important deuterogonist in Naruto's entire story is Sasuke, his best friend, who becomes a rogue shinobi, a person who halfway through the story doesn't flinch at the idea of murdering the people who get in his way. And thus, amongst this cast of incredibly dark and complicated characters, Naruto is a relatively straightforward and incredibly optimistic character, shines even more brightly. But what if he didn't? See, one of the most prominent questions that I get asked on a daily basis in my emails is, what would the world look like in the Naruto universe if Sasuke and Naruto switched places? And this is kind of a conceptual question. It can have tons of different answers, because Naruto and Sasuke switching places can mean basically infinite things. Is Naruto born an Uchiha? Is Sasuke born the child of Minato and Kushina? Does it just mean that Naruto gets a curse mark and Sasuke gets Naruto's disposition and cheery attitude? Does Naruto come from a clan that gets murdered by his older brother, and therefore Naruto has to get hell-bent on revenge using the Rasengan to try to end his older brother, Boruto's life? Oh wait, no, go the other way, because it's BN, Boruto's life, and therefore I've hesitated from answering this question for a long time. However, the concept has begun to intrigue me, and thus I've decided that truly the most important thing that separates Naruto and Sasuke revolves around the Sasuke retrieval arc. That is to say, Sasuke's decision to leave Konoha and train with Orochimaru. So today we're going to try and answer the question, what would happen if instead of Sasuke, Naruto was the one to leave the village and train with Orochimaru, which, mind you, isn't the craziest sequence of events. Yes, obviously Sasuke decided to leave the village because he was sick of the idea of Naruto catching up to him in strength, but Naruto, who's using Sasuke as a metric to measure how strong he was getting, could have just as easily got upset about the idea that he wasn't catching up to Sasuke fast enough, and therefore, in order to ensure that one day he would be able to achieve enough power to lead the people that hated him his entire childhood, Naruto could have just as easily made the decision to leave Konoha to train with Orochimaru. And today, that is exactly the possibility I want to talk about, because today we're talking, what if Naruto and Sasuke switched places? But before we get to talking about any hypotheticals, guys, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. Before we get into all that today, I gotta talk to you about a reoccurring sponsor to this page, Raycon. Listen, 2025 is upon us, and like with every new year, everyone's talking about how it's gonna be different. And yeah, when it boils down to it, it absolutely is going to be. The world is gonna change for you as to whether or not you've made a life-changing resolution or not. So maybe keep your resolution simple and say that you're gonna watch one more anime a week, and then scale up from there. Or maybe if you wanna go the other way, try and touch grass once a week. You could go on a walk, plan to go to the motherland of Japan. All of these things are pretty doable, and they're even easier when you do them with your Raycon Everyday Earbuds. See, the Raycon Everyday Earbuds are the best gym buddy, call companion, or coworker you could ever ask for, offering you premium audio wherever you go. And their latest model is their best ever model with 32-hour battery life and multi-point connectivity that allows you to connect to 2 devices at once. On top of that, they have active noise cancellation that makes sure you don't need to hear anything that you don't want to. And they're completely weatherproof and sweat resistant, which makes them an absolute must-use for me at the gym because I get sweaty. So when I'm bumping some Otaku's Anonymous, getting my lift on in the gym, I only ever use Raycons because no matter how hard I try, these things aren't going anywhere. On top of this, Raycon has started to sell these decorative cases for their earbuds that allow you to show off your personality and also still allow you to charge wirelessly even when on. So when I want 90 minutes of playtime and just 10 minutes of charging, I just gotta throw this case on a wireless charger and boom, I'm set. So what are you guys waiting for? Go to buyraycon.com/nchammer23 to get 15% off site-wide. That's right, you'll get 15% off everything site-wide when you go to buyraycon.com/nchammer23. Music makes resolutions a lot easier to accomplish. Now, I know what all the Naruto truthers in the comments are already gonna say.
Naruto would never go to train with Orochimaru. It goes against his ethos.
And like, yes, absolutely. Naruto going to train with Orochimaru does absolutely go against his code of ethics. Naruto watching Orochimaru destroy vast swaths of Konoha, kill Hiruzen, and manipulate Gaara would absolutely not incentivize Naruto to ever train with Orochimaru. Naruto wants to lead lead Konoha, he loves Hiruzen, and he's a friend of Gaara. Pretty much everything that Orochimaru did leading up to the Sasuke retrieval arc put Naruto diametrically opposed to Orochimaru. However, in this hypothetical universe, Orochimaru is more interested in Naruto than they are Sasuke. That is to say, in the force of death, instead of trying to pursue Sasuke, Orochimaru tries to pursue Naruto. And thus Naruto, in the place of Sasuke, is bestowed with a curse mark. Now, the rationale for this kind of thing happening is actually not all that crazy. In fact, the idea that Orochimaru tried to go after Sasuke after what happened to him when he went after Itachi is kind of like the craziest thing they ever tried to do. Not only was it very much established to Orochimaru that they would have difficulty taking over somebody with mastery over the Sharingan, but also Orochimaru, by going after Sasuke, is poking at the beehive that was Itachi, and that's not a good idea. And while multiple times over the course of the actual Naruto manga, Orochimaru revels in the fact of how mediocre Naruto seems, let's say in this hypothetical universe that Orochimaru is actually able to see the possibility of power that lays within Naruto's core. Because here's the thing, for a person who's seemingly trying to crack the code of every jutsu and power on Earth, Orochimaru seems weirdly uninterested in the tailed beasts, whose power represent an almost unlimited threshold of new possibilities. I mean, there's multiple Kekkei that tie their roots back to the tailed beast, so why is Orochimaru so uninterested in them? Well, it's probably most likely because the plot never needed Orochimaru to be interested in the tailed beasts, but in this universe, it does. So the first thing that's different about this universe is that Orochimaru wants Naruto as a vessel and not Sasuke. But then what is Naruto's motivation to go to Orochimaru in the first place? Well, there really could be two reasons. The first could be what we've already talked about, the fact that Naruto is upset about the fact that he wasn't able to catch Sasuke in strength, and if Sasuke was always stronger than him, then he would never be the strongest person in the village and therefore never the Hokage. Or there's a possibility that Orochimaru, like how they were able to convince Tsunade that they could bring Dan back to life if Tsunade fixed their arms, that if Naruto became an underling of Orochimaru, that Orochimaru would either bring Naruto's parents back to life or help him get a grasp of control over Kurama. And well, mind you, at this point, Kurama wasn't a huge nuisance in Naruto's life. We're assuming that the divergence from our main timeline here happens during the Sasuke retrieval arc events. That means things like Naruto using Kurama's chakra in his battle against Neji, Haku, and using Kurama's chakra to summon Gamabunta when Jiraiya pushed him into a ravine that he probably would have died in if he wasn't able to lean on Kurama's chakra, are all events that Naruto has had to deal with. And so Naruto, in a sense, does understand the pressing threat of Kurama possibly taking over his body. But Orochimaru bringing Naruto's parents back to life is probably the more promising promise, at least so far as it goes in convincing Naruto to come to Orochimaru's side. But then you say,
But Nick, Naruto wants to lead over Konoha, and if we're not changing his motivations, how would becoming a rogue shinobi ever help him lead Konoha?
well, it'd be a ruse. Kind of. See, in this hypothetical universe where Naruto makes the decision to go train with Orochimaru during the Sasuke retrieval arc, which I guess would then become known as the Naruto retrieval arc, Naruto would have to be a somewhat more nuanced character. This isn't a choice that our smiling, sunny protagonist would make. And in this situation, Naruto would either have to be blinded by the prospect of being able to see his parents, or would go to train with Orochimaru with the ulterior motivation of actually catching somebody who inflicted pain upon Konoha to make the citizens of Konoha love him. That is to say that Naruto would go train with Orochimaru as a spy. And there's really no reason that either of these scenarios can't be true. Naruto has multiple times showed desperation to meet either of his parents, and Naruto, who's in constant pursuit of the admiration and affection of all of the people who live in Konoha, would absolutely try to do whatever he could to take Orochimaru into justice after Orochimaru destroyed Konoha. And so there actually is a fair amount of highly likely scenarios in which Naruto goes to train with Orochimaru. So what does that look like for Naruto, and what does it look like for Sasuke, who stays back in Konoha? Well, we're assuming that both Naruto and Sasuke are going to have all of the progress that they had pre-time skip. Assume that literally everything that happened pre-time skip in the main timeline still happened, but replaced Naruto with Sasuke. At least in the situations where it makes sense. And actually, the only situations where it really makes sense are in moments like the Forest of Death, where Sasuke wakes back up through the power of the curse mark and breaks Zaku's arms. In that one specific scenario, replace Sasuke with Naruto. There's really no other moment pre-time skip except for the final battle between Naruto and Sasuke that has Sasuke relying on the power of the curse mark that much. So Sasuke would still have up to the 3 Tomei Sharingan, he would have access to Chidori, and Naruto would have his Rasengan and some semblance of control over the releasal of Kurama's chakra and multi-Shadow Clone Jutsu, but he would also have the curse mark. However, being bestowed with the curse mark would play out very different for Naruto than it would for Sasuke. And the time skip without Sasuke going to Orochimaru would also look very different for Sasuke, because Because, well, the natural conclusion to come to here is, oh, if Naruto goes to train off with Orochimaru, then I guess Sasuke goes off with Jiraiya, right? No, that doesn't make any sense. Jiraiya has absolutely no motivation to train Sasuke whatsoever. In fact, if Jiraiya would be doing anything during the time skip, it would be what he was doing before he met with Naruto, which was trying to capture Orochimaru. This time he'd be trying to capture Orochimaru because Orochimaru would have Naruto. And since Jiraiya believes that Naruto is the child of prophecy and he's already messed up one of those, he'd have a pretty vested interest in making sure that Naruto wasn't corrupted by Orochimaru. So no, instead of training with any of the legendary Sannin, Sasuke would actually just train with Kakashi like he was doing prior to leaving. And so a lot of you are probably thinking, well then, oh, I guess Sasuke's powers would be super different than when he trained with Orochimaru, right? No, not really. See, Orochimaru, kind of like Jiraiya with Naruto, very famously taught Sasuke very little. In fact, it's believed by most fans that Orochimaru just gave Sasuke power enhancement drugs over the course of the 2 years they spent together so Sasuke could grow faster as a ninja. Now, this isn't necessarily predicated on really any evidence, outside of the fact that Sasuke makes a lot more progress as a ninja during the time skip than Naruto does, and Orochimaru is known to do things like this. But really, outside of that, any and all progress that Sasuke made during the time skip is accredited to Sasuke, not Orochimaru. All Chidori and Cut-tone variants are accredited to Sasuke for creating them, and we know that Orochimaru wasn't involved in the development of any of these Chidori techniques, at least, because when Sasuke stabs his Chidori sharp spear through Orochimaru's door into his shoulder, Orochimaru was completely unaware that Sasuke could manipulate his Chidori in this way. Tie that into the fact that Orochimaru knows nothing about the Sharingan. It's why he's interested in Sasuke in the first place, and at this current point, Orochimaru really can't do anything to help Sasuke train in the Sharingan, which is why Orochimaru was blown away when Sasuke used the same genjutsu on Orochimaru that Itachi did when he tried to take over his body. Sasuke was already capable of doing a version 2 Curse Seal transformation by the time that he got out of the jug that killed him in his final valley battle against Naruto in part 1. Sasuke didn't get any White Snake abilities until he absorbed Orochimaru, and while he gained the ability to summon things like Manda or Manda 2, that came with his Curse Seal. That wasn't something that Orochimaru taught him. On top of this, the databooks tell us that Sasuke not only created Kirin, but is also the only person who can use it, and therefore basically anything that Sasuke comes back with post-time skip, he taught himself over the course of those 2 years. And this kind of makes sense. What motivation does Orochimaru have to make Sasuke stronger? Truly. The stronger that Orochimaru makes Sasuke, the lower the chance that Orochimaru is able to take him over as a vessel. So there's really no reason for us to believe that Sasuke, with albeit a better teacher in Konoha, wouldn't have progressed in the exact same way. Not only if Sasuke was in Konoha could he have worked with somebody who created the Chidori, mind you, and has also been shown to apply shape transformation to said Chidori very effectively. In fact, I would argue more effectively than Sasuke, as Kakashi is able to turn his Chidori into a literal tiger. And if Sasuke had stayed in Konoha, he could have trained with the only other person who was capable of using a Sharingan, Kakashi. And therefore, while if Orochimaru wasn't interested in Sasuke, he never would have gotten the curse marking. Fundamentally, from a ninjutsu basis, he probably would have done better training in Konoha. But Nick, some of you ask, how is Sasuke going to make up for the difference in power that the curse mark gave him? Well, it's going to sound more like fanon than reality, but stick with me here. Kakashi, who spent the 2 years of the time skip training by himself. Now, mind you, Kakashi did this completely by accident, and therefore it stands to reason that if Kakashi was training with Sasuke every single day, if Kakashi was ever to awaken the first gate, that Sasuke pretty feasibly would also be able to awaken it. But in Sasuke's situation, training in the 8 gates actually makes more sense than Kakashi's. Why, you ask? Well, because Sasuke kind of hates Rock Lee. Yes, we can sit here and talk about how nobody's caught more L's from an 8-gate user than Kakashi, and therefore if anybody should have a motivation to train into the 8 gates to beat said 8 gates user, it should be Kakashi. But Kakashi isn't nearly as spiteful and nearly as hellbent on revenge as Sasuke is. And since we saw in the Chunin exams that Sasuke copied the move that Rock Lee used on him and turned it into the Lion's Barrage, it's very clear that Sasuke respects Rock Lee's power. And now in the absence of Naruto, Sasuke would need somebody to spar with. The most likely person to fill those shoes, to me at least, feels like Rock Lee. So I'm not sitting here and saying that Sasuke over the time skip is going to unlock all 8 gates. What I am saying is that if Kakashi can accidentally open one of them, then Sasuke would probably be able to open 2 or 3. And as the 8 gates canonically improve not only your taijutsu, but also your ninjutsu and genjutsu, also giving you access to stores of chakra that otherwise you wouldn't be able to access, fundamentally there's really no difference in a more basal nature between awakening a couple of gates and the curse mark. Both grant you access to new forms, they increase all of your abilities, and after you use it, you're a bit more tapped out than you would be usually. Key difference here is that using using the 8 gates doesn't slowly but surely make you more amenable to suggestions from the person who put the curse mark on you in the first place. And yes, technically you're not accessing senjutsu, but we've never really seen Sasuke do anything meaningful with the senjutsu chakra he's been accessing. Yes, his Chidori becomes black, but what does that change? But with all this being said, Sasuke is not alone in the fact that Orochimaru taught him very little during the time skip. All that Naruto learned from Jiraiya during the time skip is big Rasengan and how to break out of Genjutsu. Now this is very purposely done so that we could see Naruto go through all of his training montages, but still that's to say that the 2 years that Naruto spent with Jiraiya were not that advantageous for him. So both of them could have received some better training. And in this hypothetical universe, both Naruto and Sasuke's motivations remain the same. Sasuke still wants to kill Itachi. He's just doing the training for killing Itachi like he was in the early part of the story in Konoha. Naruto still wants to lead Konoha. He's just getting strong enough to lead Konoha outside of Konoha. So the real key difference in these two universes is who trains Naruto and Sasuke during the time skip. In Sasuke's case, it's Kakashi, which would lead to Sasuke becoming kind of a Kakashi clone, leaning more heavily into the copying aspect of the powers of the Sharingan and using a much greater diversity in jutsu. Now, this doesn't mean that Sasuke's going to become a mud wall merchant like Kakashi, as his two affinities are still lightning and fire, but it does open a lot of doors for extra possibilities for additional jutsus that Sasuke could use on a more regular basis. So Sasuke would actually probably come out of the time skip pretty similar to how he comes out of the time skip in the main storyline, just minus the curse mark. But Naruto's story is definitely a lot different. See, unironically, Naruto probably would have been just as safe with Orochimaru during the time skip as he was with Jiraiya. See, while the presence of the great Toad Sage kept the Akatsuki away from Naruto and the Nine Tails, Orochimaru, ever since defecting from the Akatsuki, has been on the run from the Akatsuki, and therefore Naruto, by extension, would also be on the run from the Akatsuki. Considering the fact that the Akatsuki were never able to catch Orochimaru, injecting Naruto into that equation wouldn't change anything. However, from a training perspective, Orochimaru is much less set up to train Naruto in any meaningful capacity. See, training Naruto kind of takes an entire village post-time skip. Naruto relies on the knowledge of Asuma to increase his capabilities with Wind Release so he can figure out something like a Rasen Shuriken. Naruto needs Yamato to keep Kurama's power in check with his Wood Release when he's trying to train really hard. And Kakashi is instrumental in teaching Naruto how to cut a waterfall in half to apply the shape control to his Rasengan to make it into a shuriken shape. On top of this, Jiraiya teaches Naruto Toad Sage mode. And if Naruto's flitting around with Orochimaru, it's not like Jiraiya's gonna be able to teach him Toad Sage mode. So what could Naruto possibly get from Orochimaru? Well, assuming that the curse mark wouldn't be rejected because of Kurama's chakra, kind of like Fukakusu, as Fukakusu established that he wouldn't be able to fuse onto Naruto's shoulders like he could with Jiraiya because of Kurama's chakra, the curse mark is a senjutsu-based ability, so it's akin to Toad Sage mode. By accessing it, Naruto would be able to pull in senjutsu chakra created by Orochimaru. However, here's the thing. There's a key difference between Naruto and Sasuke, especially early on in the story, and that is that Naruto's got way more, and I mean way more chakra than Sasuke. On top of that, if Naruto ever runs out of chakra, there is literally a sentient evil battery inside of him that wants to give its chakra to Naruto long before anybody else interferes. So Naruto would most likely use the curse mark way less than Sasuke, which would mean that Naruto would be even less affected by the brain control aspect of the curse mark that makes the user more amenable to the suggestions of the person who put it on them. But considering the fact that we're establishing that Naruto was going to use the curse mark less than Sasuke, and Sasuke was still able to kill Orochimaru of his own volition, that's not really relevant. That is to say that Naruto wouldn't be actively being manipulated by Orochimaru, which isn't great for Orochimaru. However, as we've seen from Log and Mitsuki and even Orochimaru's own history, Orochimaru is very interested in the idea of mastering Snake Sage mode. And Orochimaru has been incredibly fascinated by this idea ever since they themselves tried to become a Snake Sage, but failed in the process. Now, the reason that Orochimaru failed in this process is because Orochimaru's body wasn't strong enough to undergo the Sage transformation, which was the reasoning that Mitsuki, a clone of Orochimaru, wasn't able to do it until post-time skip in Boruto. However, if Orochimaru found a vessel that was strong enough, had enough chakra, and enough ability to combine nature chakra with their own chakra to make Senjutsu chakra, Orochimaru could have that person undergo the Snake Sage mode transformation and then take over their body, which would effectively make Orochimaru a Snake Sage. Finally. And thus, in order to make sure that Naruto either dies after not undergoing the Sage mode transformation correctly, or to ensure that Orochimaru will have a truly fantastic vessel whenever Naruto is ready to be taken over by Orochimaru, Orochimaru would most likely have Naruto undergo the Snake Sage ritual, which would allow for Naruto to access his own Senjutsu chakra, which wouldn't necessarily be an issue because we've already established the fact that he wouldn't be relying on the curse mark anyways. So instead of a Toad Sage, Naruto would become a snake sage. And mind you, long before he would become a toad sage in the main timeline, as this would happen during the time skip. Naruto doesn't become a toad sage until about 130 episodes into Shippuden. But how would this difference in sage modes change how Naruto fought? Well, there's really only one difference between Toad Sage mode and Snake Sage mode. Both make you more powerful, increase your reflexes, your speed, your strength, your ninjutsu, your genjutsu. They give you access to more chakra. However, Toad Sage mode allows you to increase the range of your blows through the extension of your own chakra, which is how Naruto's able to pull off things like Froggy Kumai. While Snake Sage mode allows you to breathe chakra into inanimate surroundings. And therefore, instead of Froggy Kumai, Naruto would be able to make things like earthen golems. If you can't realize why that would be wildly interesting for Naruto specifically, you're not thinking abstract enough yet. See, think about how Naruto fights currently. He basically just covers you in shadow clones, all of whom have Rasengans of their own. However, the problem with shadow clones is that the second that they get punched or kicked, they get destroyed. This would absolutely not be the case for inanimate constructs given life through the power of Snake Sage mode. As we saw these very same constructs go toe-to-toe against the likes of an EMS Sasuke and an Edo Tensei Itachi in the cave when Kabuto was battling against two of them simultaneously. And with a little power of transformation technique, Naruto would be able to make these earthen golems look like shadow clones. Or he may not even have to get that fancy. Naruto could just bog you down with shadow clones and then mix a couple of heavy troopers into there that you can't knock out in one punch. And thus, in this way, Naruto as a Snake Sage mode user would fight actually very similarly to Hashirama. That is to say, there's really no reason for Naruto to throw himself into the mix with this set of powers. Naruto could simply hang back, create armies of golems and shadow clones, and send them all at an opponent while he collects nature chakra. Akin to how Hashirama stood on top of his wood constructs to control them using the nature energy he was actively pulling in. And this is one, a perfect allegory for the fact that Naruto wants to lead an entire village, and two, an even better allegory for the fact that he is alone. Naruto using shadow clones as a crutch of his power has always been a thinly veiled commentary on the fact that he was raised as a singular child, an individual ostracized from the rest of community. And Naruto breathing life into inanimate objects to rule them and lead them into battle is doubling down on that same allegory. However, being the general of an army of his own creation failed, there was always the Kurama failsafe. Now that we've established how powerful Naruto and Sasuke would be and how they would have achieved that power, let's get to the plot points here. So once again, how would Naruto ever rule over Konoha as a rogue shinobi? Well, fortunately for us, Konoha has a long track record of forgiving basically treason. Tsunade is forgiven for drugging Jiraiya and trying to collaborate with Orochimaru simply because she helps in the battle against him that comes up a little bit later. Because everybody understands that she wants Dan back to life, but she gives up on that dream to lead Konoha. Mind you, that's really no different from what Naruto would be doing in this circumstance. Let's say at roughly the same time that Sasuke killed Orochimaru, Naruto moved to neutralize them, which is not only more in line with Naruto's character, but would also serve the purpose of allowing Naruto to bring Orochimaru back to Konoha. And this could happen in a multitude of ways. Either Naruto could launch the offensive, or Orochimaru could decide, time to take that body. But upon Orochimaru trying to take over Naruto's body, he could come face to face, kind of like how Mahito comes face to face with Sukuna inside of Yuji's body with Kurama. Realize that Naruto has been doing a really good job at keeping a lid on this concentrated center of malice that exists in the middle of him. And therefore, either Orochimaru could be rejected by Kurama or could realize that he wouldn't be able to control this power. And thus in that moment, kind of like when Orochimaru tried to take over Sasuke, Orochimaru would be unable to take over Naruto. Now, assuming that Orochimaru is unable to take over Naruto and Naruto is able to neutralize Orochimaru, and assuming that happens in a similar timeline as the main timeline, which it absolutely should, because Orochimaru can only keep the clamps on a soul for about 3 years and can only change bodies every 3 years. And when Sasuke ended up killing Orochimaru in the main timeline, Orochimaru was actively preparing to take over Sasuke's body, and therefore Orochimaru would be in a similar situation with Naruto. So if assuming that the neutralization or the killing of Orochimaru happens at roughly the same time in both timelines, that would mean that Naruto would haul back Orochimaru to Konoha prior to both Itachi and Nagato's deaths. And as Naruto is the person responsible for hauling back the person who destroyed Konoha to Konoha so that they could face prison time or even possibly execution, Naruto, at least amongst the Konoha higher-ups, would be considered a hero. And considering the fact that we have seen multiple times that the only thing you need to do to be accepted back into Konoha is to do something for them, Tsunade, Sasuke, Kabuto, and Tsunade in this timeline would still only be Hokage because Naruto pushed her to be it. There's really no reason for us to assume that Naruto wouldn't be openly accepted back into Konoha all but immediately. And so Orochimaru is either thrown into jail or executed, but neither scenario really matters more than the other, as Orochimaru would still exist in either Anko or Naruto through the medium of the curse mark. And thus Naruto and Sasuke Sasuke about 100 or so episodes into Shippuden would both exist in Konoha together again, with Sasuke being a ninjutsu taijutsu based build and Naruto being a long-range senjutsu based attacker like Hashirama. Because of this, Naruto never learns the Rasen Shuriken. While the newfound speed of the Snake Sage mode would allow for Naruto to close the distance on any of his opponents whenever necessary, and two, Orochimaru would absolutely identify that Naruto's chakra release of choice is wind release and most likely teach Naruto wind style breakthrough, which is probably the most powerful wind release jutsu outside of the Rasen Shuriken. So Naruto wouldn't necessarily have a reason to learn the Rasen Shuriken, which means that the first thing that would have happened after Naruto and Orochimaru were returned to Konoha would be, canonically, that Sasuke would go to kill Itachi. And I know what you're thinking,
But some of the people in Konoha would stop Sasuke from killing Itachi.
no, they wouldn't. The only person inside of Konoha who knows the truth of the Uchiha massacre is Danzo, who, mind you, wants Itachi dead. If anything, Danzo would be incredibly supportive of these two brothers possibly killing each other off. And thus, Sasuke would 100% be condoned in his mission of killing Itachi. Because mind you, Itachi was a part of the Akatsuki, and at this point in the story, Konoha was becoming real cognizant of the movements of the Akatsuki. In fact, at this point in the story, Konoha was trying to make offensive counter moves against the Akatsuki, and possibly taking out Kisame and Itachi would absolutely be one of those offensive counter moves. So Konoha would most likely send a strike force of sorts to find Itachi and Kisame and eliminate them. A strike force that would most likely include people like Naruto, Sakura, Kakashi, Sasuke, and Might Guy, people who had battled against these two previously. And while the results of this battle would be the same as they are in the main timeline, Kisame and Itachi would end up dead. What's cool about this is that technically Itachi would have no reason to fight against Sasuke to the brink of death. The reason that Itachi went so hard in his battle against Sasuke is because Itachi needed Sasuke to exhaust all of his chakra to pull Orochimaru out of his curse mark, so that Itachi could ensure that once he leaves this earth, at least Sasuke would be protected from Orochimaru. But as Sasuke in this universe no longer has the curse seal and doesn't have the eyes of Orochimaru on him, Itachi wouldn't necessarily need to fight Sasuke to the brink of his death. In fact, Itachi would probably only fight Sasuke long enough to confirm that Sasuke was at least as strong as he was, at which point Itachi would probably do something like bonk Sasuke on the head, sit him down, and explain to him why he's been torturing him for the last 16 or so years. But Nick, if this battle between Sasuke and Itachi ends with Itachi talking to Sasuke about the truth of Itachi's situation, how does this battle end with Itachi dead? Well, mind you, Itachi went into his battle against Sasuke basically dead to begin with. Itachi was on the strongest life-continuing medication he could possibly find. The entire purpose of his battle against Sasuke was to die, and thus kind of in a cool full circle moment, instead of dying from his disease like Itachi did in the main timeline, Itachi, after explaining why he did all of this to Sasuke, would tell Sasuke, I need you to kill me. The same exact thing that Shisui said to Itachi when he realized his life was coming to an end. Also, Sasuke could awaken his MS, and then eventually take Itachi's eyes and awaken EMS. And thus Sasuke would truly understand in that moment exactly what Itachi went through over all these years. And in that moment, he would also hear directly from the source who caused this. And who was it? Other than Danzo. And thus this strike force that just cut down Kisame and Itachi would learn the truth of Itachi's situation and how Danzo manipulated him for years. And thus this strike force, now pseudo headed up by Sasuke with his new EMS, would head back to Konoha with the explicit idea of killing Danzo. And thus they would have to go back to Konoha, infiltrate the route, and start what would be effectively a civil war inside of Konoha. A civil war that would lead to the destruction of the route and the death of Danzo. But this means that people like Tsurune and Sai die, and not at the hands of Obito, so they may or may not be brought back during the Fourth Great Shinobi World War.
But Nick, why does Sai die?
Well, because the only reason that Sai entered the story as a good guy is because of Naruto's influence in the early part of Shippuden. But since in this timeline, Naruto spends the majority of the early part of Shippuden with Orochimaru, Sai would never be swayed from his root ideologies. And thus by the time that this strike team went back to Konoha to kill Danzo, Sai would still be on the side of the root. In fact, ironically, as Sai would most likely be added to Team 7 to replace Naruto in this timeline, Sai would most likely confer the situation that he saw on this strike team as Itachi told Sasuke about the truth of Danzo's movements and the Uchiha massacre back to Danzo so Danzo could get prepped for this upcoming battle. However, EMS Sasuke is gonna clear this fight. MS Sasuke beats Danzo in a fight rather handedly, and while he has to be saved by Obito in the end, that's neither here nor there. Now, with Kisame and Itachi, two of the strongest members of the Akatsuki, defeated by Konoha, Nagato would push the offensive against Konoha, like he does in the main timeline. And this offensive by Nagato has a somewhat similar outcome to the main timeline, except in this timeline, Naruto is there from the jump. One, because he's already mastered Sage Mode, and two, because Danzo wasn't there to manipulate Tsunade into sending Naruto away. But to those of you who are hoping that somehow Jiraiya makes it out in this version of the events, no. He wouldn't. Whether Naruto or Sasuke are inside of Konoha has really no bearing as to whether or not Tsunade sends Jiraiya to the Hidden Rain to investigate Nagato. That's something that Jiraiya wanted to do and something he insisted that he did alone. So Jiraiya still dies at the hands of Nagato in the Hidden Rain. And this would, kind of like it happens in the main timeline, most likely happen while Naruto and Sasuke were battling against Itachi and Kisame. Now, the events of this timeline line up pretty well with the events of the main timeline from here on out. Snake Sage Mode, Naruto, and EMS Sasuke clear Nagato with relative ease. That being said, Nagato would still most likely be able to get off his Shirai Tensei, so Konoha would still be destroyed. Now, mind you, the motivations of both these characters is still the same, so at their core, they're still the same characters. So Naruto is still most likely able to talk no jutsu Nagato into bringing all of Konoha back to life after the Deva Path is defeated. However, in response to seeing Sasuke's overwhelming Sharingan-based powers, Nagato at this point, who mind you doesn't like Obito, has never liked Obito, and at this point is the highest level of traitor against Obito, would most likely tell Sasuke about the other Sharingan user in the Akatsuki, which is Obito. And as Itachi would probably tell Sasuke while relaying to him all of the facts about Itachi's upbringing, the Uchiha Massacre, and everything else, that Itachi was aided in the Uchiha Massacre by Madara, who Nagato would refer to Obito as Madara. Sasuke would become hellbent on his revenge tour to take down Madara. As Konan was fully aware after Nagato's death that Obito would be coming for the Rinnegan, Sasuke would probably go to the Hidden Rain to lie in wait for Obito with Konan. And considering the fact that Konan alone was almost enough to take out Orange Mask Obito, you mix in EMS Sasuke into that mix, and yeah, it doesn't matter how many Izanagi eyes you got, you're not coming out of that one. Sasuke's seen this trick before. It's not gonna work twice. So Obito dies in the Hidden Rain village, and the Rinnegan are either given to Sasuke or kept with Nagato. But more likely than anything, they're kept with Nagato. And now that Obito, who mind you at this point would have already declared the beginning of the Fourth Great Ninja War, everybody is dead, everybody would assume, oh, the Akatsuki's dead and gone, I don't have to worry about them anymore, there's no war up and coming. Which would be absolutely perfect for Black Zetsu, who would be able to sneak into the Hidden Rain village, steal the Rinnegan from Nagato's corpse, and get that Fourth Great Shinobi World War rolling. As into the fact that Obito was by far and away not the only spoon that was stirring the drink of the Fourth Great Shinobi World War, as Kabuto was inarguably more important, and the combination of Kabuto and Black Zetsu would start the Fourth Great Shinobi World War, bringing Madara into the equation. But you say right now, if Obito's dead, then who's going to be forced into using Rinne Rebirth to bring Madara back to life? And to that I say, probably the person who should have been used to do it in the first place. And in actuality, the person who was set up to do it in the first place, Nagato.
But Nick, Nagato's dead.
You're right, but he is brought back during the Fourth Great Shinobi World War, under the control of Kabuto, mind you. There's really no reason that Nagato could have been forced to use Rinne Rebirth to bring Madara back to life. He had both his Rinnegan, and it is never stated that an Edo Tensei person can't do this. It's actually a crazy, unaddressed loophole. So Nagato gets brought back to life, there is no Jubito, we flash straight forward to Jubidara, as basically everything pertaining to Jubito was kind of filler, like not actually filler, just not all that important. Orochimaru is freed by Konoha from their imprisonment to help the Shinobi Alliance to bring the Hokage back to life in the battle, and the story pans out in pretty much the exact same way as it does in the main storyline. As prior to the Fourth Great Shinobi World War, while Sasuke was off fighting Obito, Naruto was training with Killer Bee to control Kurama, with the only key difference between this storyline and the main storyline being that instead of Obito dying in the end to the Ashal killing bone of Kaguya, it would be Kakashi. As mind you, if Obito was killed by Sasuke, you best believe Sasuke would bring his body back to Konoha, and guess who's getting DMS before the Fourth Great Shinobi World War even starts? Kakashi. Now, does this mean that Kakashi's busting out his complete Susanoo and throwing blue transporting shurikens in part 1 of the Fourth Great Shinobi World War? No. Probably not. That would most likely be reserved for some final move that's gonna burn out his eyes forever. Because mind you, Sasuke with his DMS, not his EMS, uses Hisano like 3 times and then basically goes blind. And with that, that's how the story would end. Basically the exact same as the main storyline, because Naruto would always end up back at Konoha unless you wanted to change who he was as a core character. Sasuke comes back to the side of good eventually, and therefore him never leaving the side of good doesn't really alter the events of the story all that much. I'm curious to hear what you guys think. How do you think the story would differ if Sasuke and Naruto switched places? Let me know in the comments below. And why goes it down there, please, for me. Like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. Oh, these videos are a brain exercise, dude.